The Galactic Senate chamber was one of the largest rooms in the known universe. It was a circle of floating platforms, each one carrying leaders from a different alien world. Colors, shapes, and voices mixed together like a storm of life. Today was supposed to be an ordinary meeting. But the moment the humans entered, everything changed. The human delegation walked in slowly, dressed in simple dark suits. There were only 5 of them, yet the room reacted as if a dangerous creature had arrived. Some aliens stared, some whispered, and some laughed. Humans had always been outsiders in the Senate. Other species considered them too young, too emotional, too unpredictable. They saw humans as a small species trying to act important. And so, when the human ambassador stepped forward to speak, the laughter grew louder. He placed a hand on the glowing podium. His face was calm, but his eyes were tired. "Honored members of the Senate," he began, "a threat is coming. A threat older than your records. A threat we have seen before." A deep insect-like alien clicked its mandibles. "Here they go again," it said loudly, and the surrounding platforms shook with amusement. Another alien, a tall creature made of crystal, flashed brightly. Humans and their stories. Always drama, always fear. The Senate laughed again. The human ambassador waited for silence. Surprisingly, it came. The room became still, but not respectful, more curious. As if waiting for the next part of a joke, he continued, "Our scanners have detected a massive force moving toward the central systems. It is not natural. It is not friendly. We tried to warn you weeks ago." "Yes, yes," an elder alien interrupted, waving several tiny arms. "The same danger you always speak of. Humans worry too much. Maybe your eyes are weak." More laughter, louder. Even the walls seemed to vibrate, but the humans did not laugh. They did not smile. Their faces grew cold, focused, and strangely calm. A look passed between the 5 delegates' silent communication. Like they all understood something the aliens did not. The ambassador tried one last time. "If you ignore this warning, millions will die. We ask you to take immediate action." A booming voice cut through the chamber. It belonged to the Senate speaker, a creature taller than a tree. "Humans, your fear is tiring. You disrupt our peace with your imagination. This meeting is over." The Senate platforms lit up with light, a sign of final agreement. The laughter returned, echoing across the chamber like a cruel wave, and that was the moment everything changed. The human ambassador slowly closed his notes. Then he looked around the chamber with eyes full of disappointment. Not anger. No one noticed that the other human delegates had already stood up. No one noticed their calm breathing, their steady steps. No one noticed the silence spreading around their platform, like a shadow, but everyone noticed when the humans began walking toward the exit. Without saying a single word, the laughter faded. The aliens looked confused. This was not normal. Humans always argued back. Humans always defended themselves. Humans always talked, but now, nothing. The 5 humans reached the door. The ambassador paused for a brief moment. He turned his head slightly, just enough for the Senate to see his expression. It was not fear. It was not defeat. It was something far worse. It was certainty. Then, the doors closed behind them. The Senate chamber fell completely silent. The laughing had finally stopped. The doors of the Galactic Senate closed behind the human delegation with a soft metallic echo. It was a small sound, almost nothing, yet it felt louder than all the laughter that had filled the chamber moments ago. For the first time in years, the Senate did not know how to react. Hundreds of alien leaders stared at the empty space where the humans had stood. Their platform floated quietly, lights dimmed, waiting for new orders. But there were none because the humans were gone. At first, confusion spread like a whisper. Why did they leave? Was the meeting not finished? Do humans think they can just walk out? But soon, Confusion turned into something else. Unease. A creature with 4 glowing eyes leaned forward. Humans talk too much. They argue, they shout, but they never walk away. Something is wrong. Another alien rubbed its thick scales nervously. Maybe they are angry. No, a crystalline being replied, its voice ringing like bells. Humans shout when they are angry, but this was silence. The Senate speaker rose from his towering seat. Enough, humans are dramatic. There is no meaning in their walkout. Let us continue. But before he could start the next topic, a sharp alarm echoed through the chamber, a deep, vibrating pulse. Brem. Every alien froze. Defense alarms only sounded for one reason: danger approaching. A hologram burst to life in the center of the chamber. A frightened defense officer appeared. His feathers were shaking. Senate members. Long-range scanners have detected a massive object entering the outer systems. Is it a ship? Someone asked. No, sir, the officer replied. It is unclear, but it is bigger than any fleet recorded, and moving fast. The room fell into shocked chaos. Impossible. It must be a sensor glitch. Run the scan again. But the officer shook his head. We already did. And senators. It matches the pattern humans tried to warn us about. Silence, not a peaceful silence. A cold, sharp, choking silence. The Senate speaker's voice trembled for the first time. Where are the humans now? No one knew. One senator tapped a device. Open a channel to the human delegation. Another tried to access the human communication hub. I am not getting any signal. Inside the chamber, panic crept in slowly. Like a shadow crawling over every platform, they warned us. We laughed. And now they leave without speaking. What do they know? The question echoed again and again across the giant chamber. Meanwhile, far below the Senate tower, the human delegation walked through the grand corridors. Their steps were calm, steady. They did not look back. The ambassador spoke quietly to his team. Begin the extraction protocol. We leave the planet within the hour. Yes, sir. As they walked, alien staff watched them with wide, fearful eyes. The humans moved like soldiers with a plan. Not diplomats retreating from embarrassment. Something deep and ancient in their behavior made every creature step back. They knew something. They had been prepared. And now they were leaving. Back in the chamber, the Senate speaker slammed his staff on the floor. Find them. Bring them back. They have information we need. But even as he shouted, the giant hologram flickered again. The defense officer returned, pale and shaking. Senate, the object has increased speed. It will reach our borders in hours. Hours. Not days. Not weeks. Hours. And humans? Someone whispered. The officer swallowed hard. Their ships are powering up. They are preparing to leave the system. The chamber erupted with fear. Them leaving cannot be good. Humans only leave when they expect disaster. Why didn't we listen? The Senate speaker stared at the closing hologram. His booming voice was now quiet, because we were too busy laughing. The Galactic Senate was in chaos. Every platform floated unevenly as alien leaders spoke over one another, their voices full of fear. Only minutes ago, they had laughed at humans. Now a massive unknown object was approaching their borders. And the humans, the only ones who seemed prepared, were leaving, far away from the noise. Deep in the Senate Central Control Tower, a group of high-ranking officers watched the huge holographic map of the galaxy. The object appeared as a dark red sphere, slowly growing larger as it approached the core systems. No one had ever seen anything like it. It does not match any known ship shape, one officer said, his voice shaking. It does not match a natural event either, another whispered. Then what is it? Someone asked. No one answered. The sensor lights flickered again. The red sphere suddenly pulsed, sending waves of static across every screen in the room. A cold silence settled over the officers. Then a small, thin alien technician at the back said quietly, "Humans called this a void tide in their old records." Everyone turned toward him. "What did you say?" He looked down at his trembling hands. "A void tide. I read it by accident in human archives. I thought it was some old human myth. But the shape is the same. The movement is the same. Even the energy readings match." A heavy weight fell into the room. Humans had known. Humans had warned them. And the Senate had mocked them. One officer whispered, "Call the speaker. He needs to hear this." But before he could, the hologram shifted again. This time, the image expanded, showing something new, something worse. The red sphere wasn't alone. Behind it, smaller dark shapes were moving. Hundreds of them. They looked like shadows swimming in the void, bending the light around them like living nightmares. "They are forming a pattern," an officer whispered. The shapes moved like a swarm, gathering into a giant arrow pointing directly at the Senate's capital planet. "They are coming straight for us," someone said in a trembling voice. Just then, alarms screamed through the tower. "Danger level. Maximum unknown force approaching. Prepare emergency RESPONS." E1 officer panicked. "We must activate the defense fleets." "Against what?" Another shouted back. "We don't even know what these things are." But the worst news came seconds later. Our outer defense probes. "They're gone." "Destroyed?" "No, just gone." As if erased. A cold fear spread across the room. The Senate had faced invasions before, but nothing erased matter so cleanly. Nothing moved with such speed. Nothing made humans walk away in silence. Meanwhile, in the Senate chamber, the speaker tried to regain control. "All members, please return to order." "We must," but the chamber lights flickered and dimmed. The giant hologram of the galaxy reappeared, showing the red sphere and the swarm behind it. Gasps echoed across the platforms. The speaker's voice cracked. This cannot be real." At that same moment, outside the building, the human delegation reached the landing docks. Their ships, sleek, silent, dark, were fully powered and ready to launch. An alien guard rushed toward them. "Humans, please wait. The Senate needs you." The human ambassador stopped and turned. His face was not angry. It was not afraid. It was simply resigned. "We tried to warn the Senate," he said softly. "But they chose laughter instead of listening." The guard's breath trembled. "What is that thing coming toward us?" The ambassador looked up at the sky, where faint red light was already visible. "Something from the old galaxy. Something we hoped would never return." He walked toward his ship again. The guard shouted, "Will you help us?" The ambassador paused at the ramp. "That depends," he said quietly, "on whether the Senate can stop laughing and start surviving." Behind him, the engines roared to life, and in the far reaches of space, the threat kept coming. The human ships rose into the sky like silent arrows, leaving the Senate world behind. The engines made almost no sound, yet their departure felt louder than an explosion. Every alien who watched felt the same chill. Humans were not running. They were preparing. Inside the Senate tower, panic spread like fire. The speaker issued an emergency order: send a team to Earth, find out what the humans know, and bring back answers. The search team was chosen quickly: 4 aliens from 4 different species, each one skilled in diplomacy and intelligence. None of them felt brave, but the Senate needed someone to go. The ship they boarded was fast, but not as fast as the humans' vessels. Still, they pushed it to maximum speed, racing across the stars toward the blue planet humans called home. During the journey, the team sat in silence. No jokes, no complaining, just fear. A reptilian officer finally spoke. Why did humans leave like that? No anger, no speeches. Only silence. A small feathered creature shook its head. Silence from humans is never good. Their history books say it clearly. Yes, the crystal-bodied diplomat added. When humans become quiet, something big is coming. The ship continued through the void. As soon as Earth came into view, the team felt a strange weight in their chests. The planet looked calm. Too calm. They landed near a human city. But the streets were empty. Not destroyed, simply empty, like people had walked away moments before. Where is everyone? The reptilian whispered. They are preparing, the crystal diplomat said softly. They moved deeper into the city. Lights were on, machines running, screens glowing with data. But no humans in sight. Suddenly, a loud metallic hum filled the air. The aliens looked up and froze. Above them, enormous human starships were rising from underground hangars. Not warships, the Senate knew. These were bigger, darker, and far more advanced than any design on record. Did the humans hide their true technology? The feathered alien asked, shaking. No, the diplomat said. They simply never showed it to us. As they watched, thousands of drones launched from the ships, forming perfect formations in the sky. It was like watching a sleeping giant wake up. The reptilian officer tapped the communicator. We must speak with a human leader, anyone, now. A voice answered instantly. You will be escorted. The aliens jumped. The voice came from behind them. A human soldier had appeared silently, wearing dark armor with glowing blue lines. His expression was calm, but his eyes held no warmth. Follow me, he said. They walked through a massive underground complex. Humans moved everywhere, scientists, soldiers, engineers, working with intense focus. No one wasted a second. It was as if the entire species had rehearsed for this moment. Finally, they reached a command hall where the human ambassador stood. Surrounded by holographic screens showing the void tide moving closer to Senate space, he did not look surprised to see the alien team. You came, he said quietly. The reptilian officer gulped. We wish to understand what is happening. The ambassador turned to the main screen. This is not the first time humanity has seen the void tide. In ancient times, long before your species existed, it destroyed half our colonies. The alien stared in shock. But humans defeated it long ago, he continued. We built defenses. We studied it. We prepared for its return. The crystal diplomat whispered. Why did you not tell the Senate all of this? We tried, the ambassador replied. But you laughed. He walked closer, his expression calm yet sharp. Now the void tide is coming again, faster, stronger, and your worlds are not ready. The feathered alien trembled. Will you help us? The ambassador looked at the giant map of the galaxy. Red warning lights pulsed across the screen. Humanity will not abandon innocent lives, he said. But understand this. He turned back to them. This time, the galaxy must listen. Outside, the human fleet rose into the sky, preparing for war. The command hall beneath Earth was huge, larger than any Senate chamber. It stretched deep underground like a hidden world. Blue lights glowed across the walls, showing moving maps, tactical data, and old human history files. The alien team stood silently at the entrance, staring in shock. Humans had been preparing for a long time. Everywhere they looked, humans worked with steady, controlled focus. Engineers checked ship engines, scientists studied energy readings, and soldiers moved in perfect order. Not one person panicked. Not one person wasted time. The reptilian officer whispered, This is not normal. Humans should be afraid. Humans learn to fear quietly, the ambassador said behind him. But prepare loudly. He motioned for them to follow. They walked through the hall, passing huge screens showing the void tide moving deeper into Senate territory. The red wave looked alive, almost breathing. The feathered alien pointed at it, shaking. "What exactly is that thing?" The ambassador tapped a screen, bringing up ancient symbols and fading images. "This is an enemy older than our governments, older than our recorded space travel. In the early days when humans first explored the stars, they met the void tide. The image changed to an old human colony burned. Destroyed, empty. Half our early colonies were wiped out," the ambassador said. "Not conquered, not defeated, erased, as if they never existed." The alien diplomats felt a cold shiver travel through their bodies. The crystal diplomat stepped forward. "But the Senate records contain nothing about this threat." "Because we never shared it," the ambassador replied. The aliens turned in shock. "Why?" The reptilian demanded. "Why keep this from the galaxy?" The ambassador looked around at the busy humans. Their faces were calm, focused. Their movements were filled with quiet strength. "For centuries," he began, "other species treated humanity as weak, emotional, dramatic. When we spoke of danger, they laughed. So humanity made a choice: prepare alone." He walked to a giant window that overlooked rows of human ships powering up. "We built weapons beyond Senate understanding. We studied void energy. We trained our people in secret. And we waited for the day the void tide returned." The feathered alien stepped back, overwhelmed. "You prepared for a war the rest of us did not even know existed." Yes, on another platform, a group of human generals appeared. They greeted the ambassador but did not bow, did not smile, only nodded with sharp respect. One general pointed at a star map. "Sir, the tide has split into 3 waves. The first is heading to the Senate's outer colonies." The alien team gasped. Their own worlds were in danger. The ambassador crossed his arms. "We expected that. Begin Operation Horizon Shield." At once, dozens of human officers moved. Code streamed across screens. Massive space doors opened. A fleet of dark human warships, larger and heavier than anything the Senate had ever seen, rose into the sky. The crystal diplomat stared at the ships, glowing with unknown blue energy. What are those weapons?" The ambassador answered without turning. "Technology built from centuries of studying the void. Weapons that can cut through its darkness. Shields that can survive its pull." The reptilian officer looked at him with trembling eyes. "So you knew this day would come?" "We hoped it would not," the ambassador said. "But humans do not trust hope alone. We trust preparation." He turned to the aliens. "You asked if we will help the Senate. Yes, humanity will fight. But we will not fight alone. If the galaxy wants to survive, it must work with us." The feathered alien spoke softly. "We will tell the Senate everything. We will make them listen." "They will listen now," the ambassador replied. "Fear is a powerful translator." Outside, the human fleet formed a shining arc in the sky. Engines hummed with power. Ships locked into formation like pieces of a giant machine waking up after centuries of rest. The ambassador stepped onto the command platform. "Begin launch." Syed, sirens flashed blue, engines roared. The human fleet rose toward the stars, toward the void tide, toward the coming war. The void tide reached the borders of Senate space, faster than anyone expected. It moved like a storm made of darkness, swallowing stars, breaking signals, and bending space around it. Worlds that once glowed brightly on the galactic map faded into dark, silent dots inside the Senate chamber. Fear had replaced laughter. Every platform shook with voices shouting orders, requesting help, or crying out for answers. Some aliens begged for evacuation. Others demanded weapons. But the truth hung over all of them. They were not prepared. At the edge of the galaxy, at the wall of the void, the storm arrived. A small Senate patrol fleet was the first to face it. The captains watched their screens as the darkness expanded like a giant mouth. "Is it alive?" one commander whispered. Before anyone could respond, the void tide pulsed. A ripple of red light shot outward, faster than any weapon known. The Senate ships raised shields, but it made no difference. One by one, their shields failed. One by one, the ships vanished. Not destroyed, not broken, erased, only a silent emptiness remained. A terrified officer sent one last message before disappearing. It takes the light." Then the signal cut out. Far from the doom, the human fleet MOVD, the human warships, entered the void zone in perfect formation. Their dark metal hulls glowed with deep blue lines, energy shields built from ancient knowledge. Unlike Senate fleets, their ships did not panic. They did not change direction. They advanced. At the center of the fleet was the human flagship, Horizon Prime, shining like a spear tip. Inside its command deck, the human ambassador stood with generals and scientists, studying the approaching darkness. "Distance?" he asked. 5 million kilometers in closing," a captain answered. "Enemy formation?" "Chaotic, but focused on us. They know we're here." The ambassador nodded. "Good." The first Ziontace, the void tide sent the first wave. Dark shapes like shadows with teeth rushed forward. They emitted no sound, but every sensor screamed warnings. Void creatures approaching fast. "Shields to maximum." The creatures crashed into the human shields, sliding off like oil against force fields. Some tried tearing through the energy, but blue sparks burned them into dust. The reptilian officer, watching from the deck as part of the alien observation group, gasped. "Your shields. They work." "Of course," the ambassador said softly. "We designed them for this." The human fleet opened fire. Beams of bright blue light cut into the swarm. No Senate weapon ever shone like this. These beams sliced cleanly, tearing void creatures apart. Each creature dissolved into ash, pulled back into the dark tide. The Senate officers watching from distant screens were stunned into silence. Humans. They're fighting it. They're holding the line. For the first time, hope sparked across the galaxy. The void tide days. But the void tide was not a simple enemy. The darkness shifted, forming a massive shape like a giant head rising from the storm. 2 red rings glowed where eyes should be. The entire galaxy felt its presence. "Sir, the void entity is focusing energy." A massive beam of red darkness shot toward the human fleet. Impact in 3 seconds. The human officers braced. Generals held their breath, but the ambassador stood calm. "Activate Horizon Shield." A dome of blue light expanded around the fleet. The red beam struck and shattered like glass hitting stone. Pieces of broken energy scattered across space. Every alien watching could hardly believe it. They survived. All of them. The void entity roared, shaking space itself. Humans did not roar back. Humans answered with action. "Return fire." The ambassador ordered. The fleet unleashed a coordinated blast, hundreds of blue beams, combining into one enormous spear of light. It tore through the darkness, hitting the void entity directly. The creature recoiled, its form shaking violently. The reptilian officer whispered in awe, You heard it." "For now," the ambassador replied. "But this is only the beginning." He looked at the screen showing the Senate worlds behind them. "If we fail, the galaxy ends." The void entity shook from the human attack, its dark body twisting like a wounded beast. For the first time in centuries, something had heard it. Something had pushed back. That something was humanity. Across the galaxy, alien worlds watched through trembling screens. For generations, they had joked about humans, doubted humans, and even feared humans for the wrong reasons. But now, for the first time, the galaxy saw who humans truly were. Not weak, not loud, not emotional, but prepared, brave, Unbreakable. Inside the human flagship, alarms still blinked. The void tide was not finished. It pulled itself together, gathering more dark shapes, growing stronger with every moment. The ambassador stood at the center of the command deck, his expression steady. His eyes did not show fear, only resolve. "Status?" he asked calmly. "Our shields are holding," the captain said. "But the void is adapting. It will hit harder next time." The reptilian officer from the Senate stood beside him, shaking. "Why do you not run? Why stay to fight this thing?" The ambassador looked at him. "Because if humans run, everyone else dies." The officer lowered his head in shame. The Senate finally uned back in the Senate chamber. Silence filled the room. Every alien leader watched the human fleet standing between them and destruction. The speaker, once proud and mocking, now trembled as he spoke. "We were wrong," he said quietly. "We laughed at the only species that tried to save us." No one argued. No. One mocked humans now. Every platform bowed their lights in respect, something never before done for any species. One senator whispered, "They fight for us, even after we humiliated them." Another answered, "This is why humans are dangerous, because their kindness is greater than our pride." The final way out in space. The void entity gathered its strength for one last attack. The darkness swirled violently, forming a giant spear of red energy. The air on the command deck grew heavy. "It's releasing a full-power strike," the captain warned. "Nothing in the Senate has ever survived one of these." The reptilian officer turned pale. "Your shields, can they handle it?" "No," the ambassador said. "Not alone." He pressed a command icon. "Signal the fleet." Across space, human ships shifted into a new formation, one the aliens had never seen. They formed a massive sphere, layer upon layer of shields overlapping like the scales of a giant cosmic armor. The void entity released its attack. A beam of red darkness shot forward. Screaming across space. It hit the human formation like a star collapsing. The shields cracked. Light exploded. Engines burned. For a moment, the entire galaxy held its breath. Then, the beam stopped. The shield held. Barely. On the command deck, sparks flew. Humans were thrown to the floor. But the ambassador stood back up, gripping the railing. "Return fire," he said softly. This time, the entire fleet fired together, thousands of beams, merging into one blinding column of blue energy. The strike tore through the void entity's core. The creature screamed without sound. Its body unraveled like smoke and wind. The void tide collapsed, shrinking, folding in on itself until it vanished. The storm was gone. After the the galaxy stared at the empty space where the void tide had been. The silence was deep and full of awe. The human fleet, damaged but alive, turned back towards Senate space. Messages from alien worlds flooded in. "Thank you. Humans, we owe you our lives. We will never laugh at your warnings again. We stand with humanity." Inside the Senate chamber, every alien leader stood as the humans walked in. No laughter, no mockery, only respect. The speaker bowed deeply. "Humanity, you saved us. We ask forgiveness, and we ask to learn from you." The ambassador looked around the chamber where humans had once been mocked. "Forgiveness is given," he said simply. "But this time, listen." The entire chamber nodded. From that day forward, the galaxy did listen. Everything had changed. Because humanity walked out in silence and returned as the species that saved them all.